Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to look a little bit more at the sky in July, particularly the middle of the month. A little after the middle of the month when we'll take a look at the full moon. So the moon here on the 15th is not quite full yet. We'll move a little bit later into the month. There we go, 99.5% full. That's about as full as we're going to get it. So we are still very close to summertime. The ecliptic is going to look very high during the day, so the sun will look very high during the day. But as we can see here at nighttime, the moon, planets like Saturn and Mars, if you're seeing them close to the middle of the night, they're going to be quite low in the sky because the ecliptic is going to be lower. If we move forward towards morning time, and we still have plenty of planets up as we get a little bit later into the month. We can see Mars and Jupiter there along with Saturn. We can see that by the time Saturn gets high in the sky, because we're so much closer to daytime, the ecliptic is going to be that much higher. So there is Saturn at its highest in the south, and we can see pretty high. If we go back to the full moon at its highest in the south, you can see that it is much, much lower. Now, of course, the moon doesn't perfectly follow the ecliptic. The moon is a little off the ecliptic. So there's a good chance that the moon is just a little below the actual line of the ecliptic here as well. But in principle, you can see the difference. We'll take a quick closer look at the moon. It's a full moon. I talk about the full moon all of the time. Here it is, looking nice and full. We can see that we're getting a little bit of shadow up there along the top because the moon isn't perfectly full. It's only 99.5%, not 100%. And if we go forward another day, we can see that the shadow is now just a little bit on the other side at 99.3% full. So we can see that the moon, we're not quite getting it perfectly full from here in Ireland. If I bring us back a little bit closer to the actual middle of the month, the 15th, we'll get into night time. So here we are on the 15th, the actual middle of the month. The moon is just a little bit past half or its first quarter. We can see there that it is quite low in the sky. Here pretty late at 11:15, if we move a little bit earlier into the night, we can see it a little bit before 10, still quite low in the sky. It's not going to be present in the night for too long. Of course, our nights are still quite short, so unless you're looking at the full moon will be with us all night long, and if the moon is any less than full, it won't feel like it's with us very long at all. So that's when the moon is going to be full. Of course, the full moon is the worst time to look for faint objects in the sky. So if you want to see any of the galaxies, or if you're planning on looking at things with binoculars, the full moon isn't going to particularly help. Even if we move out into the countryside, given where the Milky Way is in the sky at the moment, it's very close to the full moon. Around June and July in particular, when the moon is full, it's going to be very close to where we see the glow of the Milky Way. So we can see that here. It's dark, it's late at night, and the light of the moon almost completely obscuring the glow of the Milky Way. We're really only seeing the brighter stars. So given that it's not the best time to use a telescope or a binoculars, we might as well just use our eyes and look at some of the constellations. There are a few constellations that I mention all of the time. In the asterism of the summer triangle, we've got Cygnus with Deneb, Lyra with Vega, and Aquila with Altair. I mention Pegasus thanks to the square of Pegasus regularly. A few of the other constellations like Ursa Major over here, Ursa Minor with the Plough or Big Dipper and the North Star. Of course, they get a lot of attention. There are some other constellations that are interesting to look at. For example, Hercules up here has the Great Cluster in it, the Great Star Cluster. It actually is a good target for binoculars, but just using our eyes, this little parallelogram trapezoid shape here, not parallel, so I guess it's more of a trapezoid. That is the middle of Hercules. There's a bunch of limbs stretching out here, and they are limbs. If we bring up the image, you can see that it is the limbs of Hercules and the many-headed Hydra wrapped around him. So that's a nice constellation to be able to spot. If we turn around here to the north, I do talk a lot about Cassiopeia because of how useful it is, but there's two other major constellations up here. Cepheus, which isn't too hard to spot, kind of looks like a simplified drawing of a house. You know, we've got that square base and triangular roof, a very typical house shape, but that is Cepheus, King Cepheus, and Queen Cassiopeia, part of the same story. And then we have Draco over here, Draco the dragon. Quite a big constellation constellation and in a very popular area of the sky up here by the North Star, but Draco doesn't get as much attention. You can see that the shape of Draco isn't super distinct. This line of stars going up across the sky, it's very easy to lose track of that constellation, even though it is quite big. The stars involved just aren't that bright compared to the stars in Cassiopeia, Ursa Minor, Ursa Major. Those stars are much, much brighter. We're going to move closer to morning time here now that we're a little bit later in the month. We have a couple of famous constellations coming up or getting a little bit easier to see. So we've got Aldebaran there in the head of Taurus. We've got Capella there in Auriga, a nice pentagonal constellation, a very easy shape to recognize. Between Auriga and Cassiopeia is Perseus, this kind of fin shape. Perseus can be a little bit tough to spot sometimes because it doesn't look like a hero, it doesn't look like a person, but it is this kind of fin shape. Not as obvious as a W or a pentagon. But here we go, that kind of fin shape there is Perseus, and we can see there's Taurus. We can see Cetus as well, Cetus the Great Whale, again, not the easiest constellation to spot. Same indeed with Aries up here, even though it is a very famous constellation, a very popular one, it can be tricky to see. If we push all the way to the end of the month, that will get the moon more out of the way, especially as we push a little bit later or a little bit closer to the middle of the night earlier from our position here. But we can just about see the top of Orion and the top of Gemini. Now that we're all the way through to the end of the month, if you're out in the countryside, we're starting to see those constellations again, ones that we would normally associate with winter. They do look their best in winter, but you can start to see them early in the morning as we come to the end of July. There's the lovely glow of the Milky Way, nice and prominent now that the moon is out of the way. Of course, we're going to have the famous constellations of Sagittarius and Scorpius popping up again. We can see them. There's Sagittarius, there is Scorpius. And as we come back to the beginning of the night, Arcturus in Bootes, a name that always trips me up, is just there, and the kind of kite shape of Bootes is there as well. It's not going to be in the sky clearly for much longer. You can see it's already quite close to sunset, so it is going to be disappearing rather soon. We can see that there. There's Virgo. We can see Spica again, very much leaving the sky. You can just about see the tail of Leo there as well. Another reminder of Corona Borealis, that crown, where we should see an extra star about there. In fact, if you're out in the countryside early in the evening, might be a good time to look for this supernova that's going to happen later this year. If I get rid of the lines here, you can just about see that C-shaped ring, and it is in that empty region there where a new star should suddenly appear. So if you familiarize yourself with this little view, that's where we're going to have to take a look in the near future. We've still got our summer triangle still very, very clearly in the sky, holding a big, big position as we are still very much in summertime. I bring back up the lines of the constellations there again. You can see a couple of the less famous constellations. Well, this is Fucus with Serpens Cauda and Serpens Caput, the head of the snake, the tail of the snake, and Fucus. But just in between all of those famous constellations, we've got Scutum the Shield, home of VY Scuti, one of the largest stars discovered. So Scutum is right in there, and it is a nice constellation. There's a lot of interesting things in the region of Scutum because it is in the glow of the Milky Way, but very faint stars, not a very clear shape. You can see it's just kind of this patch here, but it's just above Sagittarius if you do ever need to find it. So just a quick run through of how the moon is going to look, plus some of the constellations you can spot if you're out stargazing, especially if you don't have a telescope or binoculars. If you're just using your eyes, there is still plenty to see, including those planets. So I hope you get a chance to see some of this once we get through to the end of July. I hope you get to spot some of these constellations, especially if you're out in the countryside enjoying sunrise. We've got some famous stars coming back up like Betelgeuse, Pollux, and Castor. So I hope you get a chance to see those. I hope you get a chance to see my next video, and you are more likely to be able to see it if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, so you will be recommended the video, or at least you'll be more likely to be recommended the video. You might need to click the bell icon as well. I hope you like this video. If you liked it, do press the like button, and if you'd like to read some of this information, you can check out my website, queebeanscontent.ie. And as well as seeing these constellations, I hope you come back and see the next video.